I see Christmas candles on a Christmas tree.
What's all this crazy question they're asking me? This is the craziest party there could ever be. Don't turn on the lights because I don't want to see.
The intrinsic internal something's not wired the way it once was on the inside. And out of that, like, we're not wired the same way we were created in the original design to be wired at. Things come out that are contrary to the original design. So,
Okay, Lisa, let's say that we're transported back into time and you're hanging out with the shepherds and you get to meet Mary. Is there a chance that you're going to be like surprised that she's so normal or maybe ditzy or like any other teenager? I've heard it said she could have been as young as 13 or 14 years old. Is there a chance she would act like a standard 13 and 14-year-old, or would she somehow just be like different?
I think she was a pretty average, normal 13-year-old for that time period. So it would not. She wasn't really a saint. She was just a girl.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I wonder if we would see her and be like, you're not the Virgin Mary because whatever, you're all into nail polish or you're all, you're whatever a 13 or 14-year-old was into in those days.
Well, that's a really good point, Alex, because I feel like the way that I was raised, that everybody in the Bible, they're heroes and they're the man of God, the woman of God, and that they're like, oh, we just want to be like them. But if you actually look at it closer, they're very marred individuals that are
normal
people, just like you and I and Tim, and I think that when we look at it through that lens, it actually gives us a lot of hope because we don't have to be saints for Jesus to choose us to dwell in.
Okay.
Holy Spirit.
And literally, the presence of God dwelt in this young girl who probably was hormonal. I mean, what 13 or 14-year-old is? I mean, is it possible that the pregnant Mary was very moody and touchy and easily annoyed? That would be normal.
And she would have been scorned and shamed for her position.
Yeah.
So she would have been carrying a lot of shame, probably, even though she knew in her heart that she said yes to God. The message around her would contradict that. And so she would be carrying the weight of that.
I love that. Like, there's not an exemption in her from feeling the gravity of the situation she's in, and the scorns and the snickers and she would have felt that. It would have affected her.
Well, let's talk about what you said earlier, Lisa. You're in a family where money's tight and you're happy with what you've got and you think it's good until you get around other people and suddenly it's not good anymore. And maybe it's the same thing for Mary. She gets this gift from God. He entrusts her to hold the Son of God in her own tummy and to nurture alive. But 9 months of everybody around her, starting with Joseph, who's probably like, well, I'm going to just have to quietly divorce you. And how could she not have been affected by that? And maybe she just really felt it was a really miserable time for her. And if it was, wouldn't it have been cool when suddenly angels and shepherds and wise men and people start coming and worshiping? It's like, finally.
I would have been like, oh my goodness, I did not miss it. And like those signposts or doorposts, whatever you want, of like, oh, here it is. This is the thing that I've said yes to, and this is why. And the world might not understand, but God like gives us those so that we can have the courage to keep moving.
Yeah, it's weird. They both went down a path that nobody had ever gone down before. Joseph's like, well, this is my betrothed and she's pregnant, but she's not really my wife yet. And we're not going to be together. And this angel spoke to me. And They must have just been like, can we even tell anybody? They're going to totally think we're crazy. And then it starts happening. And then the baby's born, and pretty quickly it's like, get out of town, go to Egypt. They're going to try to kill him. Just what a crazy.
The thread you're pulling on is giving a new significance to that snippet of the text that I think it's at the end of what we're covering on Sunday, of that Mary treasured these things in her heart. You know, it's like what you guys are unpacking and the weight of all that. And did I get it right? Did I hear it right? Did I imagine that? I think those sorts of experiences, when you do come to the tokens where God shows up and it's affirmed that, yeah, no, you're not crazy.
Mhm.
You do tend to treasure those things.
That's how Mary fostered hope in her life, was by treasuring these things.
Yeah, where else is she going to do it? There's a burst of God's presence, and now she's pregnant. And then there's probably a lot of confusion and a lot of mocking and a lot of uh, making fun of and judging, and so she's got this hope that's like a little flame that she's trying to keep it alive, hiding it. And then 9 months of just like, this is not so great. And then a burst of the birth, and angels and shepherds and wise men worshiping. And then now they're gone again, and they're these exiles in Egypt, and nobody knows them, and nobody knows who this kid is. And now they're back to mundane life. Like, well, God, I mean, what's next? And they're there for a while before they hear from God again. I don't know how old Jesus is when they say you can come back now. Herod's died, but it seems like a lot of nothing, and living by faith with a few pretty incredible experiences intermixed. And that to me doesn't sound that different than us, which is pretty surprising considering the magnitude of what they did. Tim, you described sin as not necessarily something that someone had done per se, but it's more of a condition, or like being tainted with something. So if Jesus is eating with sinners and there's animals eating in that cave or barn or whatever it is, could you say that the animals themselves are some of the sinners that Jesus is eating?